Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for today's session. My name is Danny, and I'm the event planner for the New York Reactor Space. Before we start, I have a few things to go over. Please take a moment to review our code of conduct. We seek to provide a respectful environment for both our audience and presenters. We encourage engagement in the chat, but please be mindful of your commentary, remain professional, and on topic. Useful links will be shared in the chat. The session is recorded and will be available on demand in 24 to 48 hours on the Microsoft Reactor YouTube channel. Which brings us to today's session. It will run for approximately 30 minutes with time for questions throughout. I will now turn it over to our speaker for introductions.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Season 2 of Model Mondays. I can't believe we're already in Season 2. We're so excited to have you here. I just want to set the stage for how Model Mondays will go. Today, our topic is advanced reasoning. Before we get into this, which is the spotlight segment, we're going to take 5 minutes to give you a recap of the top news items in the model world from Azure AI Foundry. And for that, I have Sharmila joining us. And once we're done with that, we'll transition over and we'll invite Marlene on board. So before I get started, let me just introduce you really quickly to 2 links you need to know. So Model Mondays is a series that will happen weekly. So go ahead and look at those 2 links. The second one is a forum link where you can post your questions throughout. And the first is a Discord where you can join us for an AMA on Friday. But without further ado, I want to actually introduce my co-host here, Sharmila. Hi, how are you?
Hi, Nitya. It seems like a minute since we last, since we completed with Season 1, but it's exciting to see that people are interested in Model Mondays and they want to see Season 2. So I'm looking forward to Season 2 and to share more model news, share more learnings that we got. And also, we've done a ton of model drops at Build and like news at Build. So we won't be able to cover everything today. So I've added a few today, and we will be covering some of the Build news in the next few weeks as well. So let's get started with the highlights.
Let's go in.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Model Mondays Season 2 weekly highlights. And, we've been out for a while and there have been a bunch of news that landed both at Build and afterwards. So I'm going to cover the top highlights today, and we will be doing more of these, like what happened at Build, in the next upcoming weeks. So let's dive in. First, we have the Azure AI Foundry models. There was some update on that front where we introduced what we call the direct from Azure models. So these are models that are hosted and sold by Microsoft. So in the past, we had only OpenAI models in this category. You're all familiar with the Azure OpenAI service. So now we are bringing more models along the same business model, which is models from DeepSeek, XAI, Meta, Mistral. So what is going to happen is these are going to be hosted by Microsoft, and as a result, it'll be under Microsoft service terms and all that. And also we are going to make some of these direct from Azure models available in provisioned offering, and it's going to be kind of flexible provisioned offering. So which means you can, if you have OpenAI reservations today, you can use it across not just OpenAI models, but also like DeepSeek models for today and more in the future. So this is now, Azure AI Foundry is now the ultimate model playground, from model matchmaking to deployment drama like serverless, reserved, or managed. You can pick your choice, and you can make your applications way more productive and scalable. Moving on, let's say hello to Sora, OpenAI's video gen wizard, which is now in the Foundry Video Playground. So again, Video Playground is a new feature in Foundry. You should all check it out. It's amazing. So if you want to go from prompt to popcorn-worthy playback, then this is one of the models you should be exploring on our Video Playground. And our Video Playground interface is amazing, where you can click on videos that are already pre-generated and you can create your own videos. You can with exportable code, VS Code plugins, and enterprise ready pipelines. So it's not just a demo, it's your AI video production studio with professional vibes. Moving on, the next is model router. Again, you might have seen some mentions of this at build. So it's like, if you're tired of picking what model you want to use in your use case, you should let the model router do the work. It is available as another model in the model catalog. And today, you can pick between a few OpenAI models, or the model router picks between few OpenAI models. But the plan for the team has been planning to extend it to other models as well. So it's in the roadmap. So first try it out today with OpenAI models, and then soon you will be able to your use case or application will be able to pick between any other models as well. So think of model router as the Waze for GenAI. It reads your prompt and sends it down the smartest, cheapest, and fastest route. And it is awesome. Again, this is one of the most interesting ways where you can think about cost efficiency. And if you're worried about cost efficiency, then this is one of the options you should try out. Moving on, Grok. You would have seen that we've announced that we landed Grok 3 and Grok 3 Mini in Azure AI Foundry models. So they're bringing long context, cosmic humor, and with Azure grade reliability and enterprise governance, and up to 131,000 tokens of memory. And these models are basically the elephant of the model LLM zoo. And there are advanced capabilities like reasoning capabilities also associated with these models. So if you're interested in trying out the Grok models, again, Azure AI Foundry backed with our enterprise reliability is the right place to check it out. And now, finally, another model. Again, this is not a brand new model in the catalog. We've had DeepSeek R1. Now we did bring the new DeepSeek hotness, which is the DeepSeek R1 0528. This model is smarter, faster, and more grounded than ever, and better reasoning, like check chain of thought magic and hallucination blocker, and perfect for agents, co-pilots, and anyone who's trying to keep your applications real, in the sense it's production worthy. So definitely check this out. Again, this is an open source model that is available out there. But then if you want to get the enterprise grade security and reliability, then you should definitely try a DeepSeek R1 0528 on Foundry. So that's it. That's a wrap for all Model Mondays news. Thank you, Nitya, and I'll hand it back to you.
Hey, thanks, Sharla. You actually set us up very well by putting DeepSeek as the last thing, because, this is a perfect segue for us to bring our next presenter on. And so today our spotlight is, as we mentioned, on reasoning models. And we have with us Marlene Mahangami. I hope I'm saying your name right, Marlene.
Yes.
And Marlene is actually a developer advocate in the Python team, but she brings 3 levels of expertise that I'm going to shout out to her now. First, she's been working with Azure and LangChain for a while, so she has some really interesting news if you follow her on LinkedIn. Second, she's been working with DeepSeek R1. In fact, the thing that she will talk about today is a 300, 400 level lab that she presented at Build. And last but not least, I think we wanted to call it advanced reasoning models because we're looking at how do we actually build complex applications. So Marlene, I'm going to set you up by asking, why should we be talking about reasoning models today?
Yeah, thank you so much, Nitya, for having me. Hi, everyone. I think reasoning models are really exciting. I think these models are the models that are going to give us the highest quality output at the moment. And Nitya and I were talking about this. There's so much news coming out about reasoning models. So we saw Anthropic just published an article about how they built their researcher with a reasoning model. And we know Apple also published something saying reasoning models aren't really reasoning. So there's a lot of controversy right now, but it's an exciting space, which is good.
Yeah, and I'm actually going to shout out the AMA on Friday because we absolutely should read that Illusion of Thinking paper and come ready to talk about it. I'll also give a shout out to a third model that wasn't in the news, but it's 5.4 reasoning. There's a wonderful 5.4 reasoning tech report from Microsoft Research. But more importantly, keep an eye out for the schedule because episode 3 is going to have someone from the Phi team come and talk about SLMs and reasoning. So this is great. But I want to save time for Marlene to take questions after. So Marlene, should we go right into the demo that you're doing for us today?
Yes, let's go right into it. I will mention that I'm specifically talking about the DeepSeek models when I'm going through the demo, but you can also try it out, and it'll be slightly different with the O models or the Phi 1, but similar concepts in general. So yes, let's get started.
Let's roll.
Hi, everyone. So today we are going to be looking at this guide in front of us that is a guide I wrote for a lab I presented at Build this year called Deeps Research with DeepSeek R1 and LangChain. This is supposed to just be walking you through how to be able to build a deep researcher with a reasoning model using a framework like LangChain. I will mention that I do think we will have the link to the guide in the notes somewhere, so you should be able to do it on your own at your own pace. So getting started, I will mention that you don't have to use DeepSeek. There's a new model version of DeepSeek that's out on Foundry that I think you should definitely try out, but you can use whatever model you want. Some of my favorites are O3 and O1 and Phi-4 reasoning. So loads of models that you can try out and should all work as well. So the first thing is that we want to understand what a reasoning model is. So reasoning models are LLMs that are trained with reinforcement learning to perform reasoning. And that means that the output of the reasoning model is going to be different from our usual chat models. And to demonstrate this, we can look at Lab 1A here. We are going to be using LangChain, a new Python package that we have in LangChain called LangChain Azure AI. And this just allows us to be able to access all of the Foundry models within LangChain. To set it up, this is pretty much all the code that we need. We are instantiating our model, and then we're just going to get a research query from the user and pass that research query as a message. LangChain has this human message option that you can pass to the model, and then it will stream the response. So very little code in Python that we're using. You'll note we're not using a system prompt here. So let's go ahead and see what this looks like when we run the code. I'm actually just going to copy here and paste this. And it will ask me for a research topic. I'm going to say, let me say, how do I make a good cup of coffee? I love coffee, so always up for that. So the first thing that you'll notice right away is that the model is starting with think tags. So you'll know that if you've coded with HTML and CSS, you'll have seen these sort of tags. And instead of it being HTML or an A or something, we have think in it. And this just shows the start of the model's thinking process. So it's streaming the process, and we can see the model has finished reasoning when there's going to be a closing think tag. So let's wait. The model is still reasoning. Let's read a little bit of what it's saying. It's saying, okay, so I want to make a good cup of coffee. Let me think about that, how to approach this. I know coffee can be made in different ways. So it's really being thoughtful about this. It's going for a while, and it's thinking a little bit step by step. Okay, it's now finished the process of thinking because we can see this end think tag. And then at the end of the think tag, so everything that's going to be in those think tags is the model's thought process about how to make good coffee. And then it's going to give the final response that will be the user response. So we can see here it's saying to make a good cup of coffee, follow these essential steps. So start with beans, grind, etc, etc. So that worked as expected. And this is different from what we usually see with a chat model. And usually with a chat model, you're not going to get as maybe detailed of a response. This is a really detailed response. And that's kind of the nice thing with reasoning models is the quality of your final output is higher. But one of the downsides as well is that you're waiting a little bit longer for the response. So that can be a little bit of a downside. The next thing that I want to point out, and here in the lab as well, is that you usually, in a real life scenario, you don't want your user, if you're building out an application, you don't want your user to see the thinking process probably, or maybe you want them to see it but in a special box somewhere. So we need to be able to separate that thinking from the final response, and we can actually do that with some Python code. This is the Python code that I used to do this, inspired by some code from LangChain. Shout out to them. And here we can see that it's looking for the start think tag and the ending think tag here, and it'll separate. This function will be able to look for everything that was in those two think tags, the start one and the end one, and separate that from everything that's afterwards, which will be the result for the humans. For us humans to be able to see. And we can actually look at this by running code that is in this file, which is lab 1b, which puts in, let's go ahead and clear it. It puts in the code, and it also adds some nice colors and things like that. So I'm going to copy this and I'm going to paste it in. And it's going to ask me a question. I'm going to say, tell me 2 nice parks in London. I'm based in London. So hopefully it's going to give me some good park recommendations for the summer. So we can already see I've used Textual, which is a Python library, to be able to visualize this in a very fun way. But we can see that we're separating out that thinking process, and then we're also getting the results here. So that was really nice and quick. And in a real life application, we could even just return the research answer and that's it. But you can see that we've been able to separate those two with just this Python code here. The next thing that we want to do is understand that with reasoning models, sometimes people want to use these models to be longer running and do things like research and use them in some sort of business process, and at the end of it create some sort of a final report. And we want to be able to do that as well. So to be able to do that, we can just go ahead and edit the system prompt. In the last example that we had, we didn't actually have a system prompt at all. The model just reasoned. Here for this current example, we actually had said to put in bullet points the final answer, but we can change this and let's say provide the final answer as a table. And that should then give us our answer in a different way. Let's quit. And then we're going to just rerun the same code, but we hopefully will get, let's say again, give me 3 parks in London and why they are popular. So the model is going to run through the thinking process, and at the end of the day, we're going to hopefully get a different style of result because we've specified to the model we want the results to be returned in this way. So when you're using these models, they're very helpful for situations when you want high quality results and you want to maybe create some sort of a PDF report or something like that. This is super useful. So let's move on to the next step. The next thing I want to talk about is how with these reasoning models, even though they give us very high quality results, they do have limitations. So our LLMs in their current state usually will have things like a training cutoff date. So they don't have all the knowledge that is there from this exact date today. So maybe the parks that I was recommended, there's a new park that came out today, which is the most popular park, and it's not in the data because the model doesn't have access to any data that was pre its training cutoff date. And so we also know that the models have limited amount of knowledge built into them. And so giving them a tool which gives it access to the internet, to the web, is a great way to be able to give your model some extra context, and it can reason over that context as well. So we want our reasoning model to perform two functions in this process of building a deep researcher here in terms of the web research part. The first thing that we want the model to do is take in our research topic that we've typed in. Usually I'm super lazy, like, maybe I'll say just find me the best parks or something like that. We want the researcher to be able to take context, extra context from its surroundings, and generate a good query that it can use to search for results online, so that the data it's getting from online is correct in terms of the context. And so to be able to do that, we'll have the user just pass through the research topic, and then we'll have a system prompt that we send to DeepSeek R1. And we can actually take a look at the system prompts. All of the system prompts are in a Python prompts.py file, and it just has instructions about what the model should do. So we want the model to take in that research topic and then give us a result where it returns the query to send to the API, and also gives us back some rationale. So it tells us exactly why it's made the decision to do this. So that is pretty much what we're going to be doing for the query generation part. And then after that, we're going to do some web research and then summarize the results as well. So we'll first look at the generating query part and the Tivoli search part. So to do that, we are just going to copy this here, and I tried to make it as easy as possible for you to just see what is happening in the results. Let's go ahead and paste that in. And our topic is, what is something that we need to know? Let's say, what is a trending topic today? So obviously it needs to look online, because we need to know what the date is today, and we need to be able to know what's trending. So the first thing is that you can see that the date is the 13th. To be able to see that, we actually have a Python function here that gets the current date and passes that information to the reasoning model. So it has that context of what the date is today. And then also it's thinking about what else it needs to know to be able to generate this query. It's, just thinking about, I should consider major events, tech conferences, etc. Maybe it's taking in, I'm not sure what context, a ticked context is what it's getting. So let's let it generate. Okay. Great. So it's done that, and then it generated the search query. The search query that it says June 13, 2022, trending news topics, social media, and rationale is this query combines the current date with platform-specific trends to identify viral subjects, breaking news, or cultural moments dominating online discussions as of today. So we can do things like, we can say, you can actually tell the model that you want a longer query, and you should have as detailed as a query as you'd like. And all of this you can change in the prompt, which, just like we saw before, can be passed as the system message into LangChain. So here, for example, we've only asked it to return to us one search result, and we're seeing that there's a trending topic here, some current trends. Bigfoot is trending on TikTok. I don't know why Bigfoot is. Saying content creators are making accounts and utilizing VO. Okay, that's, I don't know if we want to talk about VO in this place, but it's fine. So that is a great example of how we can give our model tools. And to be able to see that, you can just go to the Lab 2A option to be able to just look through what that looked like, to be able to pass through the system prompt. We just got the code, this writer query for instructions. We imported it from the prompts.py file. We're passing it through, and then we are printing. Some other things to note is that, you can take a look at the code here in terms of, where is my Tivoli search kind? Here it is. So you can change the number of results. If you want more results, you can also change the search step to make it more advanced. So if you want a really detailed search to be done, then you can edit this section here. I've also put in the guide a link to the Twilio search document. So I think that's all the time I have for this demo today. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it was helpful. If you would like to see more, please go ahead and take a look at the guide. And that is all I have for the moment. Thanks.
Oh my gosh, that was so much. Thank you so much, Marlene. I know we'll kind of have a 5-second delay while we catch up on the chat. So I'm actually going to just put the link to the slide that has your sample while we wait for people to come on. And I don't know if you saw any interesting questions. Sharmila, do you have anything that you want to weigh in on with a question while we see the conversation?
My big the one question I have would be around these like we were talking about advanced reasoning, and we have all these Grok models, and now like we had DeepSeek. So Marlene, are you seeing any? Have you seen differences? Like, have you explored the Grok models at all, or are you seeing what's the big, like, why should people use one versus the other? Is there some takeaways here?
I have not explored the Grok models yet. Yeah, I have not explored them at all at this point. But I have, of course, explored 01 and 03, the other versions, the versions that are coming, the reasoning models from OpenAI. And I have also taken a look at 5.4 reasoning, and I think that looks good. I would say, I think that right now, probably your O group of models is probably going to give you the highest quality. If you just want pure quality in terms of a reasoning model, I think that's going to be a great option. The API is going to be different, so the results that you're going to get are going to be slightly different from what you're getting with DeepSeek, but it'll also be really good, and you can do the same thing, separating the thoughts from the results. And I would say with the 5.4 reasoning, that is a great choice when you're doing stuff with SLMs and you're wanting to work entirely local. That's going to save you a lot of money. It's going to, be also great for privacy reasons as well. That's also a great reason to choose something like DeepSeek, because you can do all of that locally on your machine, and you're going to save in terms of costs, just because these are open source models. So you can do a lot more, I would say, on your local machine with those. And I think DeepSeek is probably in the middle in terms of like really high quality, but also something you can use locally. So that's what I would say with that. I haven't tried Grok, but I'm open to hearing.
So I'm going to weigh in on a couple of things, because there are questions coming in, but I'll weigh in on a couple of things. One is, I think since Sharmila brought it up, Model Router, check it out. Model Router actually hides reasoning and non-reasoning models behind a router and takes a decision for you. So for those of you who are asking price and price trade-offs, try it out and see whether it's doing the job for you. Second thing I think is, since we brought up DeepSeek, we actually have an MAI RDS. I forget the name of the model, but a Microsoft-tuned version, which I hugely recommend. And for those of you who want to try Grok out, it's available on GitHub. Both of them are available on GitHub, so you could take it for a spin for free. But I want to actually go to our conversation. So Marlene, there's a question from Marco Amato who says, how do you create tests to validate consistency on prompt responses? Which I think is an absolutely fantastic question.
Yeah, that's a great question. Evals are a huge part of this process. I would say setting up evaluations. You could set up an LLM as a judge to ensure that the results that you're getting are good. Part of this deep research lab that I did at Build is a reflective process where you actually get the model to reason over the current response. And this is one of the reasons why we use LangChain, is because it keeps track in LangGraph of the state. And so you tell the model to reason over the current report and see, is this a good report? And if it doesn't think it's it's good. It should recommend a new prompt to send. So something new to send to the API or to generate, a better report. So the model ideally should be iterating on itself and reflecting on the output. And you can do that you can write out the code to do that. LangChain has a great template for LLM as a judge, or you can use the built-in evals. We have some great built-in evals as well. And I think Nitya even maybe has a lab on that.
We had a lab at Build. So I'll put the link in the chat to what Marlene was saying. I mean, the bottom line is you need evaluations no matter what, and you have to go, don't just leave it till the end. Start from the very beginning when you start building your application to evaluate them. So we have an evaluation SDK in the Azure AI Foundry. So the lab that Marlene was referencing is one that will walk you through all the safety and quality evaluators, plus help you build your own custom one. But there's tons of work in this space, and we should put the links in there. But I want to ask you one other question, Marlene, because the next question was also interesting. And this is, I think, very relevant to DeepSeek. It says you get answers in think tags, each showing the thought process. But how is each think content processed? And what if the output doesn't match the following pre-generated think tags? So I think this is, if you can see the question in the chat, otherwise I can copy it over.
I'm not sure how is each think content processed? And what if the output doesn't match the following pre-generated think tags? Do you mean how is the information inside the think tags, like the thought tags processed? I think I'm trying to understand the question. But
I think so. Since we'll ask, hopefully the person who asked, I think it is patient zero.
Yeah,
we'll clarify this when they watch us chat. But I think what they're talking about is actually that reasoning token, right? So the idea is that reasoning tokens are used up when you reason on, or when it's thinking for a particular step.
Yes.
And I think in the O series models, it drops the thinking history, right, for the next round. It only takes the tokens for the current one. Not sure how DeepSeek works. So what I'm guessing they're asking is, does it maintain like the think history that's there? Does it become part of the conversation history?
I think patient zero has clarified. I mean, at least clarified a little bit more. So it's he or she is asking, what does it do with the content of each think tag? Are they generated a few in? They are generated a few in sequence, right?
Yeah. So I think with reasoning models, they're trained to do things in a step-by-step process. So it will probably it'll be thinking again in that same way that the models do this, are generating the next token, but they are thinking more. They've been trained to do it in a step-by-step manner. So they've been trained to do that with reinforcement learning. And I don't think, usually, yes, if you actually go back and you read the content that was in the think tags, it's super coherent. Like you can actually follow how the model is getting to where it's getting. Like you can see the step-by-step process, and I think that's all done with that reinforcement learning. Probably they've shown it other ways that it thinks in those ways. So yeah, I hope that answers the question. But I do think it thinks in sequence. That's correct.
Yeah, and I was going to say, I think we're over time, but just a couple of quick links. First of all, you can snap the QR code. This is the lab that Marlene ran at Build. It'll go walk you step by step through that entire demo that she just did. But want to give a shout out that next week on Model Mondays, we will have Dan Delimarsky come and talk to us about Model Context Protocol. This is probably an area of huge interest to a lot of people. So if you have questions, comments, please do post them in our Discord or on the forum ahead of time. But I want to leave with this, that Marlene is actually going to be available on our Discord for our AMA on Friday. So today it was kind of the live stream and we have 30 minutes. But on Friday, if you join Discord and go to that link, Model Monday/chat right now and register, we'll spend 30 minutes just literally only talking about reasoning models and answer all the questions, and also like look at some of the news that came out, like the Apple paper and like the Anthropic architecture and like the questions you're asking. So if you have any other questions or comments, please do leave them for us, and we'll try to get back to you. And with that, Is Sharmila here as well? Marlene, any last thoughts? Why should people be looking at reasoning models?
No, this was great. I think the lab is there. I feel like reasoning models are so fun to experiment with. I think it's so cool to see the step-by-step process. To me is really interesting to watch, and I think that's probably the furthest we are in the field at the moment. So yes, excited to hopefully see you on Friday. Please join us on Friday for the AMA. So
Yes,
yeah.
please join us on Friday, and don't forget to go check out the other series. There is 5-4 reasoning on in 2 weeks from now, and model context protocol next week. Thank you all for joining us.
Thanks everyone.
Thank you. Thanks
Bye.
everyone. Bye.